cooking legumes all together and being able to store them so you don't have to cook every day. Here we have brown rice, and on top we're going to cook some potatoes. To the brown rice we add some green onions and some herbs and spices that I had frozen, and once they're done we've got both things ready. The potatoes I refrigerate. The rice I serve some, and the rest I freeze in containers. Now I have a topping that is made with oats, and this topping I use for many recipes, which adds a little bit of extra carb that is a healthy carb. With dried oregano, Parmesan cheese, some almond meal or any nut meal you want, and the oats. Mix it, place it in a bag, freeze it or refrigerate it. If you refrigerate it, it's going to last for at least 2 weeks. Mix it and that's it. It's amazing. If you're going to do it for kids, you might want to process those oats. You would have it on tofu and chicken, fish, and maybe had some pork. This is how I reheat some of the rice that I freeze. So I freeze it in small containers so that I can defrost them under water or fast. Place them in a pan, add a little bit of extra drops of water, about a teaspoon, some herb or anything else to make it different each day, and there. Here's how I store it, and I break a piece if it's for me, too, if it's for my husband and I. This time I'm adding a little bit of coconut milk from a piece of fish that I had cooked. And check it out, less than a minute later, we're done. Reheating the frozen beans. Sometimes I run out of flat containers, so I have to freeze them in containers that are a little tall. And it becomes a little uncomfortable, but well, what can you do? Divide them ahead of time with some parchment paper and let them sit for a while, or put them in a Ziploc bag and underwater. Then I also add a little bit of liquid, and minutes later, check them out like they just came out of the pan. I'm serving them with some fish and some brown rice. What an amazing meal. With patties, I make patties for all sorts of burgers, from ground beef to game to fish, and all of them have an amazing taste. Instead of adding bread, what I add is oats. You can actually get 2 more burgers from each pound of burger with this mixture. And you could go with an extra half a cup of oats, but this is the one I've been doing, as I believe that little by little we will start changing, and the important thing is that the flavor is not noticeable. So here we have our burgers with spice and some mustard, some barbecue mustard, and some spices, because we want to give them delicious taste, even if they had oats or not. Our burgers have to taste delicious. Everything we want to taste delicious. That's why we go out to eat to restaurants sometimes, because we don't make all these things, but we don't want to make them all the time. So what I do is that I prepare enough so that I can freeze them, and I don't make patties more than every 2 months, more or less. So here we go, frozen from the bag, which the bags I reuse because I wrap my patties on the paper, and there they go, cook them. If I cook them frozen, I cover them. If I don't, I just put them on the pan without covering them. I serve mine with some kale, my husband with 2 burgers because he thinks 1 is not enough, but slowly he might start eating just 1. Here's a snack that I made, and I started doing this for my daughter when she was pregnant. And it's basically an energy snack with cannellini beans, some dried tomatoes, pesto, and nuts. And that's it. Mix it, keep it in your bag, and eat it at any time. She's actually eating it in the car waiting for her kid at school. Now I'm going to show you that you can make and freeze any rice, even the amazing wild rice. All of these recipes are actually on YouTube, and you can look for them and you can find them in our links. Basically, you add the herbs and the spices, and you can also check out my video on how I freeze a lot of these things so that I don't have to get my kitchen dirty every day. Sometimes I actually add curry and raisins to my wild rice, but we usually make it plain so that you can add the extra ingredients when you reheat and you don't end up with 8 servings of curried and raisin wild rice. Place it frozen into the pan, add a tablespoonful of water and cover it. That water is going to create some steam. Less than 2 minutes later, you'll have a perfectly fresh, right out of the oven, wild rice. Potatoes I also cook on top of some of my other meals, and I cook them for 3 days. So I don't usually make a whole pot of potatoes because I don't want to eat potatoes for 3 days in a row. And it's just my husband and I. So right there they were peeled because they were for some friends too, but mine I usually do not peel. And what I do is that I keep them refrigerated for 3 days, and then I either roast them with a little bit of olive oil and herbs, or I put them in a pan with a little bit of butter and oil and some rosemary or some paprika, and they come out beautiful and delicious. Potatoes I don't freeze. I cook enough for 3 days and I refrigerate them. The other grains like rice I do freeze. Now here I'm making some fish patties, and that's my house in the ocean. So check out my other patties. With fish, boar, elk, venison, salmon, I make them all. And whenever I buy salmon, for example, any one of these, I just buy a couple of pounds and make, 12 patties, and then I don't have to make them again for a couple of months. It's me and my husband alone, and we don't want to eat the same thing every time. So I just make extra so I can keep some and freeze them. Mix. For example, when I get game, I usually add some dried fruit, I add some spices, and I add some herbs. They taste delicious, they are strong flavored, and they go great with these. Do the same thing, create my patties, cook them, and make amazing burgers. Check that out. Beautiful. Lunch or dinner in seconds. With salmon, I make either salmon cakes or salmon patties. When I freeze them as patties. But the day I make them as cakes. So I add all the flavoring ingredients to them, the oats like I did to all of the other patties, and with a scoop, I just place them in cupcake pans and bake them. The other ones I freeze as patties. Why? Because it's instant defrosting them, and defrosting patties takes either leaving them overnight or it's going to take about 15-20 minutes. It's not the same as defrosting something that is this thin. Check it out. Beautiful burger coming out for any day. There they go. Now we're going to make a white fish patty. I'm serving this one with kale and ginger. I love white pickled ginger. It's something that I love with every vegetable. It's not so strong, yet it's a little bit spicy and sweet. Okay, so there are our cakes, and we're going with our white fish burger. Same thing, mix our fish, cut into dice, with the oats. The only difference is that this meat is softer. You don't want it to break into many pieces. So what I do is, instead of mixing it with a regular fork, I mix it with anything that's small. And that way the pieces don't break. Yet the eggs and everything inside is mixed. This is actually a fondue fork. You can do anything, like skewers, whatever you want. Once I mix them, I prepare the patties like I did with the other ones. Freeze them, eat them, and enjoy delicious food that is healthy for me and for the environment. Remember, with chefpachi, delicious food, amazing meal. I love to eat good food, but I don't like to be sitting in the kitchen having to prepare dinner, especially when I'm usually cooking during the day for my work. So I try to do all these things so that it becomes easy and My husband and I have great food in seconds every day. Enjoy! Chefpachi!